Senator Kennedy visited 2 institutions. A New York newspaper visited a 3rd.
Well, I visited the state institutions for the mentally retarded, and I think particularly at Willowbrook that we have a situation that borders on a snake pit, and that the children live in filth, that many of our fellow citizens are suffering tremendously because lack of attention, lack of imagination, lack of adequate manpower.
Now a very few outpatient treatment centers, such as the one at Flower Fifth Avenue, and even fewer training centers, such as the Kennedy Foundations in mid-Manhattan, have begun to operate with mostly private funds.
There were 4 sets of parents that had children with developmental disabilities, and all they wanted was a clinic to bring their children when they were sick. I had such empathy for parents because they had been so badly treated and not given much dignity and much regard. So that's why the lobby was so gorgeous, because when they walked in, I wanted them to feel, gee, this is for me. You know. Everybody that was somewhat involved with disabilities or supported disabilities was on that stage. And I knew that that's where we were going to have the momentum and the power to open these doors for everyone to come, because it was geographically unlimited. You could come from Timbuktu if you had to. The model was kind of in my head of what we had to accomplish and what were the services we needed. And all of the disciplines had to have a place.
The Institute's disciplines include departments of social work, psychology, speech and audiology, psychiatry, pediatrics, and neurology.
We were very transdisciplinary in those days. We were very much a team. This was a laboratory as well as a functioning facility. It was inspiring, and it was trend-setting.
When you are pregnant and expecting a baby, you expect everything to be fine. The obstetrician who delivered Jason made every possible mistake in the way that he delivered the information to us that Jason had been born with Down syndrome.
He was so cute.
He told us point blank that we should not take this child home from the hospital, but should leave him behind, and that they would take care of placing him somewhere. We didn't know where.
And the parents were advised that perhaps they should come and see me. And they did. And they were crying. And I said, dry your tears, because this child will be the joy of your life.
And she took Jason in her hand like this. She held him up in the air. And he was like a noodle. He was like a wet washcloth. He had no muscle tone at all. He hung there like a, you know. And she said, he's going to be wonderful. He's going to be terrific. We're going to work with him. We're going to start today.
Jason was adorable. He was responsive from the beginning.
I put him in a program that I didn't even have a name for yet, infant stimulation.
We would stand him in ribbon cuttings. I always had a big box of ribbon cuttings, and the kids loved throwing them around.
I knew we had to stimulate these children, make them look, make them react, make them touch, make them feel.
And we said, what can we, you know, water play is nice, swimming around is nice, but we need something thicker. Should we do bubbles? Should we do, and then all of a sudden it was Jell-O. And Emily came in with tubs of Jell-O.
And dumped him into this Jell-O. And it was just wonderful. It was, you know, it was kind of cold, and it was wiggly, and then it got into between his fingers, and it got in his hair and up his nose, and then he tasted it, and it was just great. He just absolutely loved it. And it just sort of stimulated all of his senses at one time. It was marvelous.
And that's from Sesame Street.
15 months was when he first went on to Sesame Street for the first time.
I have a full, rich life.
Special projects are underway involving the use of video techniques and equipment as a direct aid to therapy.
I want to see 9 fingers. Look at Terry's fingers. 9 fingers.
There were no institutes like this before the Kennedy legislation, and that's how we got our money. It was a 3-for-1 match. Many things are successful or unsuccessful because of money. You might have a wonderful program, but if you don't have the money, it's difficult to survive.
Where did the funds come from for this?
Well, it's a long story. I won't make it that long. In all fairness, one man gave the largest contribution, and I'd like to credit him with that.
He was a broker, Mr. David Baird, and these were, I think, practically his words. "You seem to be a very dedicated young woman," he said, "and I'd like to help you. And so I'm going to give you $25,000. Well, my heart sank because I wanted to build a building. And I said to him, "Mr. Baird, that's very generous of you, but I want to build a building, and I can't do it with $25,000. So we talked and talked and talked a lot, and finally I got it up to $250,000. And then I said, "May I come back and see you again?" He said, "Of course, my dear." And so from then on, we started to develop a relationship, and then I got most of the money.
We had tried to maintain what we had through the different directors that we had for a while, but I guess in a sense we were treading water.
There was a changeover between being managed by the New York Medical College and then kind of was rescued by the county.
Parents were becoming more and more knowledgeable and empowered.
And I just remember like really fervent rallies.
But everybody kept their vision and kept working.
The stories that I would hear when I came on board about that time were heart-wrenching.
They were trying to close us.
Andy just really brought in a huge amount of energy and vision. One of the very first things she did was to meet with the people from the Department of Social Services here in Westchester. Then our programs just grew and grew and grew. There was no focus at all on the foster care population. So when we came on board, I was really hired to do that. Children's advocacy centers were functioning within the country. Our county was a little bit behind in getting on board with that, but once we did, we complied with all of the standards to become a certified children's advocacy center.
I'm very pleased with the facility today and under the leadership of Dr. Bacon.
We work hard to help families know how to advocate for themselves and for their child, and how to sort of take the lead in their lives. They are the experts. The professionals are there to help them.
We created an enduring facility.
This place will not change, excepting to grow. We will change. We will come and go. There'll be other people, there'll be other leaders, there'll be other directors. But if the foundation and the philosophy and the concept is laid down, that won't change. It will only get better.